Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this portion of the October 16th Public Works and Recreation Arena Committee meeting. I am your chair, Jason Trombetta. Councillor, are you ready? Councillor Rayner, are you ready?
Not quite. Another 10 minutes, please?
No, thank you. No. Please note to the members of the public, all cell phones, pagers, PDAs to be turned off. Again, I'm your chair, Jason Trombetta, so I'll start with item 2, any change in order of item on the agenda. Seeing none, any disclosure of interest or conflict of interest? Seeing none, I'll move on to appointments. There are none. Request, move on to number 5, request to address any items on the agenda. I'm seeing no one in the gallery, so I don't see any. Number 6, consent agenda items. All items listed below are considered to be routine, non-controversial, can unless be approved by one resolution. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless a member of council requests it, in which case items will be removed from the consent resolution, considering immediately, and remaining on the consent agenda items. So move on to 7, communications. There are none either. So we'll move straight to number 8, staff reports. Item P, W50-17, Director of Public Works, Mr. Julian, recommendation and report RFD PW30-2017, water, wastewater servicing memorandums and understanding with the Niagara region. Recommendation that report RFD PW30-2017 read water and wastewater servicing memorandums and understanding with the Niagara region dated October 16, 2017 be received, and that council endorses both memorandums and understanding and authorize the Director of Public Works and Engineering to enter into the MOU attached A and B with the Niagara region to establish a new service agreement between the Township of West Lincoln and the Niagara region. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Chichek, Councillor Bell. Comments or questions? Councillor Ganan.
Sorry. Actually, to Mr. Julian, if you would, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah. I've noticed that this has been a long time coming, and I know that in a lot of the various things, policies and things that we have in other organizations and even within the library board, that we have to put in a period of time when we will revisit something. So since this had been such a long time coming, I did acknowledge the fact that as I read through both of those documents that there is a place if one of the other parties feels that they need to terminate or they want to make a change. But I just wondered if there was any discussion at all about revisiting this, you know, annually or biannually, or, you know, for sure we should look at it within 3 years rather than wait such a long period of time. So it was more about, you know, the discussion that went into getting to this point after such a long period of time.
Through you, Councillor, or Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Ganan. The memorandum of understandings were developed through a committee, the Quality Management System Compliance Working Group, which is a combination of the region and all 12 municipalities, and that's where that discussion takes place. There will not be, I would note that in our particular case, there's really not a lot that's changed. It has more to do with larger centers where the boundaries are getting crossed a little bit occasionally, just based on how the infrastructure is built, but it's not something also that would happen in such a short time period. So we generally leave that up to the committee to make those recommendations when the MOUs require updating.
So then again through you, Mr. Chair, it is one of those things that sort of goes on until the need arises. Is that, to put it simply, is that what you're thinking?
Through your, Councillor Trombetta, to Councillor Ganan. Yes, as the working groups meet, some of these items would have been identified, and it's that committee that decides when things look a little bit unwieldy and it's time to update.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Ganan. Any more comments or questions? Seeing no more, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. B, amendment to budget. Director of Public Works, Mr. Julian, recommendation report RFD PW31-2017 road rehabilitation tender authorization amendment to budget. The recommendation that report RFD PW31-2017 road rehabilitation tender authorization amendment to budget dated October 16, 2017 be received, and that council accept the tender submission by Norjon Contracting Paving Limited for the roadwork restoration in the amount of $3,523,429 plus HST, and that council approve the project budget of $3,598,429 plus HST, and that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Norjon Contracting and Paving Limited. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Ganang, Councillor Bell, comments or questions? Councillor Bosma.
Just one brief one. I noticed that there's about $1 million available after this that would just simply fold into the next capital projects budget. How does that all work? How does that get spent? I know that some of the projects that were suggested earlier would just simply be on the table for 2018. We're not necessarily thinking we're going to spend it this year, but it'll just fold into the capital reserve. Well, no, actually, we made another reserve, didn't we? So it would just, okay, no problem. It would just go into that reserve and just be spent on, okay, accordingly.
Yeah, I think I'll see if there are any more comments or questions in regards to this. Councillor Rayner.
Through you.
Through you, Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Rayner. We haven't had those discussions with the contractor yet. Right now, the goal for us at Public Works is to get the approvals, and then we'll sit down and have a pre-construction meeting. However, looking at the time of year and the weather, I would suspect it would be in the new year, because especially with the tar and chip type applications, you want some heat to pack that down for a bit of time before it gets to the winter. But we'll have those discussions. I guess you're not understanding. So once the tar and chip is laid, you need some traffic on it with some warm weather to continue to pack it down, is what I'm trying to say.
Still have the floor, Councillor Rayner.
Through you to Mr. Julian. I was assuming it was Caister-Gainsborough Town Line Road, which is paved, not tar and chip, right?
Through you, Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Rayner, Caister-Gainsborough Town Line is a mixture. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Julian. Any more comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. And again, amendment budget C, PW 52-17, Director of Public Works and Engineering Brent Julian, recommendation report RFD PW 32 2017 Wade Road, Clover Street, and Station Street rehabilitation tender, and Thompson Road sanitary sewer upgrade tender amendment to budget. The recommendation report RFD PW 32 2017 Wade Road, Clover Street, and Station Street sanitary rehabilitation tender, and Thompson Road sanitary sewer upgrade tender authorization amendment to budget dated October 16, 2017 be received, and that council accept the tender submission by Pipeflow Contracting Corp. For the sanitary rehabilitation works in the amount of $145,987.50 plus HST, and that council accept the tender submission by Gedco Excavating Limited for the sanitary sewer upgrade works in the amount of $146,561.65 plus HST, and that council approve the amendment to budget to approve the completion of the projects outlined in the report with the total expenditure of $349,523 to be financed by the federal and provincial funding of $198,141 and transfer from the sewer reserve of $151,382, and that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Pipeflow Contracting Corporation, and that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Gedco Excavating Limited. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bell, Councillor Chichak, comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Move on to other business. Director of Public Works, Brent Julian, MERS update, verbal update.
Thank you, and through you to Chair Trombetta, to members of the committee. So as you are aware, the design committee continues to meet with Ball Construction, and the design is moving along well. Construction started on the site with the sanitary sewers, and that is near completion, if not, in fact, so now. As council is aware, we had a water main break 2 weeks ago as the contractor was crossing the water main, constructing sanitary sewer. This can be normal, working around water mains from time to time. It was up and running with no loss to the arena ice time, and we're thankful for that. The contractor will be constructing water main next with, right now it's in a permit review phase, but we expect that they'll be constructing that very shortly. Follow that, footing excavations are potentially planned for next week. You heard tonight from Mr. Gurney that the skateboard park design is moving along, and we're looking forward to the completion of that. As well as the site plan review is very close to completion. Ball Construction has advised us that rebar for the building portion of the project is tentatively scheduled to be delivered for the week of November 6th. So we're excited to see that as seeing the project move along like that. At the November Public Works meeting, the architect from Architecture 49 will be available to provide committee with an update regarding the interior design and the finish of the building and the finishes. We'd like council to have a look at that. And lastly, the fundraising campaign. The campaign has moved into the campaign readiness phase. It's commenced already, and with materials and plans being formulated. Once this is done, there will also be a presentation to committee or council. The campaign readiness phase is expected to wrap up by year's end so that we can quickly move into the implementation phase by the new year. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Julian. Appreciate that update. Move on to B, CAO West Lincoln Public Library, Vanessa Holm. West Lincoln Library and Hall project update. It's a verbal update. Thank you, Mrs. Holm.
Through you, Chair Trombetta, to members of committee. So I'm reporting on our first change order at Wellandport. As suspected, based on the age of Wellandport Library, asbestos was found during the hazardous materials assessment. The good news is that the amount was very small. Although we did have to have an asbestos, all the asbestos removed by a specialized company, it was able to be done in a day. And the total cost to remove all the asbestos with tax was $1,023.75. So this amount is a change order, however, and it will be taken out of our construction contingency budget of $75,000, which leaves the construction contingency at $73,976.25.
Thank you. Any, I guess there's no comments or questions. Thank you for that update, Mrs. Hall. Appreciate that. Move on to C, item PW 5517, members of council, any other business of an informative nature? I'll start to my right. Councillor Bell, Councillor Bosma, Councillor Ganan.
I just want to say a little bit about how appreciative I was with staff and the work that they did putting together the opening for that library, the groundbreaking. It was a horrible day weather-wise, but it was a wonderful occasion, and I guess it's a good time for me to publicly plug the Wellandport Market and Deli as well for providing the refreshments for that day. So thanks to staff and thanks to the deli for providing food.
Councillor Chichuk.
Other than the fact that it was a great groundbreaking, except that the ground was really mud at Wellandport. So, but a long-awaited start to a repair and rehabilitation befitting Wellandport, and glad to have been part of it.
Mayor Joyner, sorry. Councilor Rayner? Okay, seeing that's it, there's no, yes, Madam CAO/clerk, sarcasm.
Through you to members of the committee. So this evening you received your first update from Vanessa, which had one change order. And I just wanted to comment on that. That was a low amount for a change order, but when this project starts moving forward, it's going to move fast and furiously, and there's going to be a lot. So you will receive summary of change orders, but it won't be individual ones, because to keep this project going, when we run into stuff like that, we just have to keep approving them. So you will receive updates on summaries, but just to keep the project moving, I want you to understand that stuff like that, when you come into it, you have to keep moving, and we can't stop for approval at committee. We can just keep you posted so the project moves forward.
Through you, Mrs. CAO, can I ask a question about this, or should this be to another time, not to open up a big can of worms and stay here all night discussing this, but can I ask a question now about this, or since you brought it up?
Yes, Ken?
Okay, so my question here is, if the change order comes, which is already approved for $1,000, and it's approved in the field, then it has to be done immediately to expedite the project, I understand that. Why does the report have to come back if it's $1,000? Should we set a budget if it's, let's say, and plus it falls under the contingency anyways? Should we set a price, like, do we need to have every $5 light bulb come to council, or can we set it, like, set a price of $10,000 or $25,000 that come to council? If it's a small change order?
Through you to members of the committee, certainly we can report on larger items only. That would probably make everything a lot easier.
I would imagine so. Like, if we could set,
understanding though that the approval has been made because the project has to move forward.
correct.
So if council would like to set an amount and we report on the
I would,
amount, that
I
would
would
be
say
appropriate.
$25,000 at least minimum. Like, I don't think that, and that's just me, I don't think that if we don't set it, if we do set an amount, we're gonna have every $5 light bulb come in. Like, I don't know. Oh, see, that's why I don't know if it's the appropriate time to discuss this now or at a different meeting. Like, that's why I'm asking now, right? Well, it's only 8:30. Go. Okay, I see all the hands going flying up. Councillor Chichuk, go ahead.
You know, I think for a process, we're not asking them to come and ask ahead of time. We're asking, they're coming in, not to beg forgiveness either, but, you know, ask permission or beg forgiveness. After the fact, all they're going to do is monthly give us a report on what exactly got spent. That was change orders. So if it's a big one and we go beyond the reserve, which isn't all that large for a project this size, all it's going to be is an update. Why don't we just take it as an update and receive it like we do minutes? I'm not looking to make a federal case out of this, because if we're going to say afterwards, why and how did this get spent and how do we get over, I think staff would be well versed in just giving us a report that says, there's the things, change orders that happened last month. Good night and God bless you.
And I understand that, and the reason why I brought that up, but if it's in the compound of the contingency, it's not over the contingency, Councillor Chichuk, then why does that need to be reported on everything? Like, there should be a set amount budget then.
And my point would be,
Because we're trusting
if you're
staff.
going to go over the contingency, if you have a contingency of $100,000 and you spend 1,000, then you spend 5, and then you spend 10, and then you spend 15, all of a sudden you'll get over the 100. So every month you're going to say contingency original amount 100, spent to date 50. You're not asking for you know, anything about the 50. You know, you got 50 left. That's all it is. It's a no go, no show.
And I'm aware of that. I'm just saying that if there's a, let's say this one that came in this evening that is $1,000, we have entrusted our staff to make the right as their expertise to approve that $1,000 extra in the field. I just think that everything, there should be a set budget, my opinion, and that's why I brought it up, that there should be at least a set budget amount which should be reported to council. If not, they should become at the end of the month or something.
Different point. That's what I'm saying is I don't want it to come. I just want a report that says monthly, here's where we stand, here's where we go, in case we had to go to extra money. It's a transparency item so that people say, hey, you're not reporting. And I think the clerk wants, or the CAO wants to talk to you.
Through you members of the committee, the reason I brought this up was exactly for that. We're not going to report on every little item because there's going to be many. So if the committee is fine with it, we will give you a total amount. And when there's a large amount that we feel needs to be brought to your attention, we'll do that. And if that's fine with you,
That's what I'm
then
looking
that's
for.
how we'll do
But
it.
do we have to set a number or no?
No, we'll let you know if there's a large number.
Councilor Rayner?
All right, I'm a little confused in this. We just started the library, and already we've got a warning from the CAO about changes, and don't expect everyone to come across. We've got a multi-million-dollar project that was approved, and nobody said anything about, don't worry about changeovers, but Councilor Chichok said, I want to make sure that we don't go over, that's something I'm really going to key on. And all of a sudden now, we're not going to key on the library, just approve it, let it go, so long as it doesn't go over contingency. I believe Vanessa said there was $73,976.25 left in the reserve. Am I correct? 2 cents out.
Pretty good.
That's the HST. I would think that that would be the money that we should be looking at, and I agree with Councilor Trombetta that every $1,000 doesn't make sense. But I would say in this particular case, anything over 10,000 that would be taken out of the reserve should certainly be brought to the attention of council. And therefore, things like these 1,000 ones, which as the acting CAO says, has to get done for the project to proceed, is fine. But something like a $10,000 one, when you've only got, the amount of money that I stated left, doesn't leave you a lot of latitude if it continues on a regular basis. Pretty soon the reserve will be gone. So maybe that would be something to be focused on. That would take a lot less time with committee.
The CAO?
Through you to members of the committee, on a $23 million project, 10,000 is a little less than you might think. But what we will do is monthly, let you know where we are with totals. And if there's anything big, we'll highlight it for you. And you'll see monthly as we move forward how close we're getting to the contingency total, or maybe we're not even going to get near it. But you will receive reports. I just wanted you to know that these things will be ongoing, and we will keep you posted.
Thank you. Through you to the chair just brought that up. What is that? Anything big you said? Well, that's a very ambiguous statement. It's subjective. You asked specifically for a number, and I would like that big to be followed by a number at least, so that we can agree that when it exceeds that number, it's brought to our attention. If not, it's part of the process of building.
Well, see, this is, there's, do you want to, sorry?
Through you, would it be appropriate if I report back on what we feel is an appropriate number, and we can discuss this again?
Councilor Bell? Sorry, Brent, did you need to say something first, or sorry, Councilor Bell, I saw Brent trying to.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairs. Through you to the members of the committee, it's important to note, I think, that the contingency amount that is set in the contract of the RFP for the design build was set by the contract. We have a set budget, but in those of the 23.6 whatever million, but inside that are things like soft costs, for example, paying a consultant to do a review of the stormwater management, or for the geotechnical
Testing and stuff.
sampling that had to be done. That was identified in soft costs from the original consultant, and that's how that budget was set. So it's not just like a jump out change order per se in all cases. I hope I'm explaining that correctly, but there are soft costs. There's the budget, the $750,000 that was set aside or that was allocated as contingency in the RFP, but that's all one budget.
Okay. I just, thank you, Mr. Julian. Terry?
I guess for the library personally, we have X number of dollars set aside for the contingency fund. And that money is set aside for things like this that just come up, the asbestos removal. My past experience dealing with major projects, I really don't want to know when you spend $1,000. I want to know if we can do it monthly, give us a quick summary. What I'm interested in, if they come tomorrow and say to Mr. Julian, we got a problem, it's gonna cost us $8,000, $9,000. He's got the money there to go ahead and do it, so you say do it. Come back and advise council that yes, this had to be done. We're doing it, it's still within what we have set aside to do it. So all we really need to know as a council for transparency is, start out with the figure here, and I'll just use the 100,000. Come back next month and say, well, we're down to 95,000. There's what we spent it on, boom, done. And once we get close to that figure, where we're at 90,000, we've hired the consultant to look after our money for us. He's already itemizing everything. He's looking after it. He's doing the plus and minuses to it. Do we really want to micromanage? And if we do, then maybe one of the councilors want to step up and do it. I personally don't think we need to micromanage. That's why we hired these professionals to do it for us. So.
Councilor Gann, did you have something to say?
I did. I just wanted to say further to that, when the danger that I see of putting a number on it is that tomorrow, if something were to happen in Wellandport, and it was going to cost $12,000 or something, we still need them to go ahead and do that rather than wait for another meeting with us, or we're going to end up missing our timeline. So I think Councilor Bell is absolutely right in terms of, the contingency is there. Yes, we need to know about it. We need to be aware of where we are with it, but I think that staff needs to be able to go ahead and just deal with it and come back to us later. I certainly don't want to end up with council in the middle of some kind of a decision about should we or shouldn't we, and risk the danger of losing that federal grant at the end. So.
Sorry, Mr. Julian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to members of the committee. I think, too, for clarification, there's maybe a misunderstanding between contingencies, as I spoke of soft costs and that, and the budget, and extra work, which would be something that was defined. Something happened out there, and it's over and above what was in the contract, and that is also a contingency. And I think that's where the clarity needs to happen. In Vanessa's case, the asbestos abatement assessment, that was an extra. It was not in the original, but it's still in the budget and still within the contingency budget.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. So how do we leave it, Madam Clerk, that you're just going to...
We will
Or Madam
report
CEO.
monthly, and we will highlight large items.
Perfect.
But we will still have to move forward.
Absolutely,
Large items.
that's my whole point. You still have to move forward, right? So,
Yep.
okay, well, thank you very much for that. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Brent, for that. And thank you, everyone here. I'd call this meeting adjourned at 8:40. See you, Dave.